Hello, this is Frank. I have something here I want to read to everybody, and because this is so critical, I want to share this information with you. You may be hoping for information that will bring new hope for resolving this issue. The spill, the meaning of the oil spill that's occurring in the Gulf. Because this is a third dimensional experience created by third dimensional choices, the hope for resolution lies in what you choose to do in the material world. There's no way to escape this fact. Ultimately, you are working with the conscience of the long-standing choices made by humanity. Like everything, this event is resonating at every level of existence, in the physical, social, energetic, higher dimensions, and every level. This event is resonating for all of humanity. The primary energy of this is the energy of birth, which may not seem to make sense at first. Just like in birth, this is the painful new beginning of a fresh perspective. At a more third dimensional level, this is a wake-up call for humanity. Make no mistake, this is a wake-up call. This has always been written, that as you did damage to your environment, which is planet Earth, eventually you would need to wake up and notice the damage. Then you will have a whole series of choices to make as a human race. You could strive to mitigate the damage and heal the Earth, or you can ignore it until things get bad enough that you choose to mitigate and heal the Earth. Either way, at some point, in order to survive, humanity is going to change their primary drives toward wholeness and healing for all forms of life on the planet. That is the inevitable end result. It may be that there are very few humans left alive when you finally make that decision. Until then, you will see progressively bigger and more startling wake-up calls. Most of them will present themselves as what you are calling ecological disasters, man-made disasters, and increasingly they will affect human beings rather than just animals. It will affect human beings in more immediate and irrevocable ways. This is yet another wake-up call in regard to the process of humanity and having swung out of balance with nature, and now being called to swing back into balance with nature. As most of you know, you have a very long road ahead of you. Even if you choose to totally change the whole human race's perspective on the value of ecology, you would still have generations of work ahead of you to physically resolve the damage you have done. Actually, most of the work still lies in simply helping more of humanity recognize the need to bring yourselves back into balance with ecology. It is a wake-up call in the third dimensional level. There is a deeper spiritual meaning of birth. The energy of the Gulf of Mexico at this time looks like a birth canal. And if you imagine birth occurring for a mammal, for a human being, or any other mammal, the birth canal expands. It expands, it sometimes tears. There's a lot of blood and a lot of other fluid. It is a messy event, and energetically, you are birthing a new potential for humanity. That wake-up call has so much potential. It has come through a messy and painful event. What you're likely to find, excuse me just one moment. What you are likely to find is that the wake-up call is going to evolve over the course of the next several years. The first major shift occurring is people who never thought that they would worry about ecology or being in balance with planet Earth are finding themselves now necessarily concerned with it because their lives are being directly impacted. That number of people being directly impacted will continue to expand, because right now the strongest potential is that the oil will spread to many other coastlines before it is resolved. It will be present for right now, potentially for decades. That is one of the immediate effects in the hearts and minds of many individuals. They're waking up to the truth about our current relationship with planet Earth and the fact that it is out of alignment. There is a secondary impact for most of the world, and certainly for the Western world in regards to your oil or petroleum resources, and the impact will occur in money. A lot of people will lose a lot of money. Some very wealthy people will lose a lot of money because of their misguided efforts to become wealthy through oil production. But even more people will lose money by paying higher prices for oil and by paying higher taxes to help clean up the mess that has been made. If humanity, and particularly we will be more specific about the United States, if people in the United States had collectively shifted more towards becoming into balance with nature, you may not have had such a large and far-reaching, impactful disaster. You are not being punished. You are simply being woken up. Just like a teenager who is reluctant to get out of bed in the morning, if a parent pushes them and nudges them lovingly, they may not wake up. So eventually the parent has to shout or push the teenager out of bed, or throw cold water in their face, or something that feels like a punishment but is really the effort to get you to wake up. We know that for many of you who have been aware of the ecological imbalance and long been investing in helping to resolve it, it is very frustrating to see such a large disaster happen despite of your efforts. In order for this to be resolved for humanity as a whole needs to make the shift. It is always lonely and it's always difficult to be a pioneer, to be ahead of the curve. For those of you in that position, there is some value in it as well. That's the meaning of the Gulf oil spill. It is actually pretty straightforward. It's a direct consequence of your actions. And how can we help? Well, the question of how you can help is that the primary purpose of this in the larger scale of things is to encourage people to wake up and change their core values, or realign how their behavior matches their core values. One of the most important things you can do to help here is to actually talk about this with your friends and neighbors, and to avoid blaming or avoid saying, "I told you so." It is difficult to come out of denial. It's very painful to come out of denial. It will serve you to be gentle and soft, but totally willing to talk about this. Talk about the events with your friends and neighbors. Not in the form of debate, but simply bring up the topic, watch the conversation evolve, and just gently take note of who is waking up. There will be people who are resisting or denying the truth in this impact, and there is not much you could do to change their minds. The people who are suddenly realizing that their actions, that somehow they're connected to the ecological disaster, turn your attention to those people without blame and without any sense of self-righteousness. Be willing to talk about and brainstorm together how you can make changes in your lives that will help bring you, and there to some extent, bring humanity back to alignment with the balances of nature. This is a long, slow process, my friends. Many of you hope that this will be the final awakening. Like this will be bad enough that everybody will suddenly wake up, but this is really the kind of thing that's going to change over the course of years and even generations. It is vitally important that you do your part. There's also some things that you can do physically. Ultimately, you must change your relationship to energy. We mean that on the physical level of electricity and oil, and we mean it in regards to metaphysical energy. The process of realizing that everything is energy and that you are made of love goes hand in hand with the process of realizing your consumptive behaviors and ceasing your destruction of planet Earth. You must address this at both a physical and an energetic level. Organizations are going to emerge to help support the cleanup of the mess and also the prevention of future such disasters. Those organizations are the seeds for organizations that will eventually help you to be better stewards of wetlands and coastal areas across the world. It will serve you to support those organizations. Some of you will be called to support them by volunteering, and some of you will spend money. It will be important to wait and pay attention to make sure you are spending money spending money to the organizations that actually have staying power and integrity.